Yes, indeed, it is a mad world. But we have to make the best of it. We're going to give it our best shot. Thanks for hanging in. This is your man.
Ishi Hakase.
We're going to bring you something funny and something a little weird and something strange, and it'll be a little unbelievable. Definitely will be stupid. So you all know what to do. Just relax, kick back, and enjoy. Fake. Fake. It's fake. Fake news. Man, that shit is bull. That's fake, man. That's for sure. Fake news. We hear it all the time. So over the past few years, certain politicians have used a tactic of deflection by claiming anything contradictory to their agenda is fake news. If a reporter says something and they perceive it as glowing, great reporting. The same report doesn't fit their agenda, fake news. They just deflect. Now, there is news or journalism, and these are reports on current events that are based on facts and supported with proof or evidence. Fake news, on the other hand, is news or stories created to deliberately misinform or deceive readers. Fake news is often created to influence views or political motives.
Yeah, so if somebody can explain this, that would be great.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. Fake news is a term that has come to mean different things to different people. At its core, we're defining fake news as those news stories that are false. The story itself is fabricated with no verifiable facts, sources, or quotes. Sometimes these stories may be propaganda that is intentionally designed to mislead the reader, or may be designed as clickbait, written for economic incentives. So in other words, the writer profits from the number of clicks that people go about on that particular story. So in recent years, fake news stories have proliferated via social media, in part because they are so easily and quickly shared online. There are two kinds of fake news: stories that have truth, well, at least some truth, but aren't 100% accurate. So for example, a journalist quotes only part of what a politician says, giving a false impression of the meaning. And then again, they can deliberate and try to convince readers of a certain viewpoint, or it can be sometimes the result of an innocent mistake. But either way, it quickly attracts an audience that can become entrenched as believing it as some type of urban legend. The second kind of fake news, these are stories that just aren't true. These are entirely invented stories designed to make people believe something false, buy a certain product, or to visit a certain website. You know, your man got on one of these travel websites. When I went to Brazil, pictures looked great. Got there, no knives, no guns. So to confuse matters further, there are also people who claim that factually accurate stories are fake news just because they don't agree with them or they find them uncomfortable. So where does fake news come from? Fake news is nothing new. What is new is how easy it's become to share information, both true and false, on a massive scale. Social media platforms allow almost anyone to publish their thoughts and share stories to the world. The trouble is, most people don't check the source of the material that they view online before they go out and share it, which then can lead to that fake news spreading very quickly and going viral. At the same time, it's become harder to identify the original source of news stories, which can make it difficult to assess their accuracy. This has led to a flood of fake news, and in fact, one study showed that more than 25% of Americans visited a fake news website in the 6 weeks prior to the 2016 US presidential election. But not all fake news stories are found online. Co-workers who gossip, or while browsing publications that fail to check their facts, for example, are also guilty of spreading misinformation, even if they do it inadvertently. The impact of fake news in the workplace research shows that 59% of people are concerned about the effect that fake news has in the workplace, and with good reason. For example, some people might start to believe that they no longer need evidence to back up their arguments. Others start to mistrust information altogether. They stop listening to industry reports, they disengage from office workplace communication, slowing their professional growth and development, and ultimately this damage may permeate through an organization's learning culture. Fake news can affect behavior too. It also encourages people to invent excuses to dismiss others' ideas, or to exaggerate the truth, or to spread rumors. This can create divided, anxious workplaces where people are cynical and unsure of who to trust. They might even begin to mistrust you if you believe that the authority figures have lied, if they believe that their authority figures lied to them, or that the information that they are working with is suspect. It can sap people of the curiosity, their enthusiasm, and their ambition, and it becomes ultimately difficult to collaborate and be successful. Misinformation and fake news can also harm your business. Invented reviews of your products or inaccurate financial updates, for example, can do serious reputational damage. The universe of fake news is much larger than simply false news stories. Some stories may have a nugget of truth but lack any contextualizing details. They may not include any verifiable facts or sources. Some stories may include verifiable facts but are written using a language that is deliberately inflammatory. They leave out pertinent details or only present one particular viewpoint. Fake news exists within a larger ecosystem of misinformation and disinformation. Before today's version of fake news, we had sensationalism. No better propagated than from our tabloid newspaper sources. And I will admit, with a little bit of shame, that I do miss checking out those outrageous headlines in the Globe or the Inquirer, or as we described it, the E-Inquirer, while standing in the queue at the supermarket. And we called it the E-Inquirer. It's spelled E-N-Q-U-I-R-E-R, not to be confused with the Philadelphia Inquirer, which was I-N. But these tabloids, these small half-sized newspapers, ran condensed stories, or what we call tabloid journalism. The Daily Mirror in England, regarded as the world's first modern tabloid newspaper, launched in 1903. And according to its founder, explained that the name, the Daily Mirror, was a reflection of it being a mirror of feminine life, and that its contents should be entertaining without being frivolous, and serious without being dull. Sounds a bit sexist to me. As opposed to straight news reporting, the Mirror built its foundation on crime stories, gossip, puzzles, and sports. And within a year, it had become known as a pictorial newspaper featuring far more photographs and images than its competitors, ensuring broad appeal. Within 5 years, it was Britain's second largest morning newspaper and paved the way for other tabloid examples like The Sun and the Daily Express. Since their inception, tabloid newspapers have been renowned for their variety, a symptom of their intention to maintain the broadest appeal possible. Historically aimed at a working class market, they interspersed an often sensationalized version of the news with astrology and gossip columns and Dear Abbeys and comic strips. There is a distinction between the British form of tabloid news and what we see in the United States. The British tend to focus on stories about the monarchy or a local football or tennis player, and they tend to make a mockery of their behavior. The United States is a little different. Now, we do have to distinguish that there's really two meanings of tabloid. While some daily American newspapers are regarded as tabloids, and that is due to their size, their content remains more respectable and less scandalous than the typical impressions of a tabloid newspaper. Examples of tabloid newspapers are the New York Daily News, the Chicago Sun-Times, and the Boston Herald, all of which are compact-sized, image-centric, but Pulitzer Prize-winning publications. But when we really think about this whole issue of fake news, it is the other category that stands alone, and that is the supermarket tabloid. They set the bar, and they set the bar high. The publications most typically regarded in the U.S. they are not sold on newsstands. They're sold in supermarkets. And National Enquirer pioneered this in the 1960s. This was followed by the Globe and the Star, and they forged their place in the market by utilizing sex and scandal and routinely championing scoops of celebrity or political secrets, as well as bizarre stories about the occult or aliens. These publications are perhaps renowned for much more of their outlandish headlines as for their libelous lawsuits. So, I think we should take a moment and take a quick look back at some of the more interesting and outrageous tabloid headlines. And I'll ask you to fasten your seatbelts. From the New York Post, maybe one of their most famous, headless body in topless bar. Now, there was an unfortunate murder that happened in this bar, and it looks like somebody lost their head. But the way it sounds is that a headless person went into a topless bar, and a lot of these things, of course, are done with tongue-in-cheek, or they really try to push the limits of innuendo, like this one. Tiger puts balls in wrong place again. Obviously lampooning some of the things that Tiger went through a few years back with his infidelity. That was very, very much in the news. But what really sets the standard for tabloid news headlines has to be Bat Boy. And this outrageous image of this so-called boy who was captured in a cave while people were out exploring. Bat Boy went on to develop a whole series of different headlines, such as, well, they captured Bat Boy. Now Bat Boy has escaped. Coast-to-coast manhunt for Cave Boy captured just weeks ago. And you notice that there's always a little inset photo of a real bat next to Bat Boy. And then Bat Boy's at it again. Bat Boy leads cops on a 3-state chase. So we didn't know that this boy who was suddenly found in a cave knew how to drive an automobile. And not bad. Looks like he's driving, it looks like he's driving a Mini Cooper. Looks like Bat Boy just wanted to go for a joyride. But, Bat Boy continued on. Bat Boy, he fought in Iraq. So maybe they're trying to paint him as a war hero. But if you look at this cover, I'm not sure if the best part is the eyes on Saddam Hussein or the flasher that says chomp. But of course, Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, they were targets of the tabloids many, many times. And this one in particular, Saddam and Osama adopt a shaved ape baby. I mean, I wonder what agency is actually putting ape babies up for adoption. And, to push it even a little further, that it is a shaved ape baby. Well, good for you two guys. We know that we're in the world of the modern family. I hope it brings you closer to one another. Well, of course, there's always the story of, animal experiments or animal hybrids. And in this case, a chimp with a human brain talks, and he speaks in German. And I'm trying to figure out, was he born with a German brain? Was the German language processing implanted at a later time? What did he say were his first words? Like, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Might have been his first words. I'm not entirely sure, but it just seems very interesting that of all the languages that this chimpanzee would speak, it would be German. I'm not hating on German. I love German, but wow. It seems a little arbitrary. But we'll continue on because we go into this once again, this theme of animal hybrids and animal experiments. And this woman proudly tells us that she had Bigfoot's baby. So they had some kind of consensual relationship. I'm not sure how involved Bigfoot is in the whole parenting issue of this child, but it looks like he's 4 years old and healthy and happy and as smart as a whip. Thanks, Bigfoot. And of course, science fiction, fantasy, robots, this always shows up somewhere in the tabloids. And in this one, shocking CIA leaked reveals, and I think we knew this all along, Vladimir Putin is a robot. But interestingly enough, so is Dick Cheney. And they apparently have the same inner workings because it looks like the same photograph, except, a different head on it. Right, so if you really think about it, that starts to explain a lot. I guess they are robots. And then we would not be able to really sort of bring holism to this category if we didn't talk about aliens. And there's always aliens, and the aliens always look the same. But I do like this. 5 U.S. senators are space aliens. And from some of the things that I've been reading, QAnon theory, maybe they are. Maybe that is true. The best part about this headline is that the alien actually told former Presidents Clinton and Bush. And they look like they're walking very merrily with a nice embrace. And the story here is not that an alien is consulting with 2 former presidents, but 5 U.S. senators are actually space aliens. And, apparently aliens have some degree of sexuality that seems to interest your supermarket tabloid viewer. And in this case, gay aliens found in UFO wreck. They died in a last loving embrace. How touching. Oh, but of course, aliens won't stop there. They go after cheerleaders too. So it looks like they're over some kind of football match, and the saucer comes down and they abduct the cheerleaders, but looks like the players and the spectators, they didn't have any interest in them. And then we transition from aliens to maybe the couple that I have seen the most, and that is the Clintons. And there's just something about the Clintons and tabloids that just seem to go together. So Alien and Slammer after fist fight with Bill over Hillary. I'm not even sure what else we could say about that one. You look up in the upper right and it looks like Bill got the worst of it. Now if we leap across the pond and we see some of the UK versions of tabloids. This one is about the Queen dying and quits. Rather interesting. And then somehow Gary Coleman shows up in this tabloid. And we haven't heard that name in a long time. What you talking about? And they're really good at getting pictures of people with their eyes closed. They're blinking, or they might wipe their face, and then all of a sudden they take that picture and they say, Obama is insane. Or Joe Biden just put his hand on someone's shoulder and he's all of a sudden a serial groper. And then you just get these outrageous things like the Obama's vacation scandal, in which they spent $5 million. And it cost $258,000 for Michelle just to bring her clothes along. And these things are just so outrageous that it's hard to understand how anybody would believe any of this to be true. But maybe my favorite one is this. Satan's skull found in New Mexico. Why is Satan in New Mexico? And if Satan's skull was found there, that means that Satan's dead and we don't have anything to worry about anymore. I guess we can just go out and party now. Do whatever we want. We don't have the threat of the devil's going to get us. But then back to my first question, why is Satan in New Mexico? I mean, was he there on holiday? Did he run out of things to do in Washington, D.C.? So the big question here with all of these kinds of examples, how do the tabloids avoid getting sued? They don't. They get sued all the time. However, in order to win a lawsuit for libel, and libel being something in print versus slander, which is word of mouth, you have to prove that, one, it isn't a parody or satire. Two, it actually isn't true. And three, it actually damages the character of the subject of the article. Very few people actually believe anything the National E-Inquirer says. It's all but a joke with headlines about, Bigfoot, or Will Smith really does work for MIB, or Jennifer Aniston is on steroids. But the issue here is, do those statements really damage that person's reputation, and are they able to actually prove it? It's really hard to successfully sue someone for defamation of character because, well, at least in the United States, they believe in the value of freedom of speech so strongly that they don't want to open the door for people to sue just because others levied valid criticism upon them. So this stops the really dumb tabloids pushing really dumb headlines that only crazy people believe. But what about the tabloids that aren't so out there and do have a lot of potential to cause some damage? Well, there is this issue referred to as the Streisand effect, and many celebrities are quite concerned over this. So a tabloid might write a story that a few bored moms pick up at the grocery store, but otherwise it goes nowhere. The celebrity gets angry, but they sue over it, and suddenly the story is all over the news. And now people are trying to figure out, why are you so upset about this story? Which then gets more people to be concerned about it, who immediately want to read about the story and see what all the fuss is about. So now all of a sudden the issue starts getting perpetuated. And then even worse, they might assume that the reason you're trying so hard to cover up the story is that you are hiding something. So the story must be true. And you may still lose the court case. So most celebrities just ignore the tabloids as best they can and hope that any bad articles blow over without anybody really noticing. But wait, there's more. Another major test in libel law is the actual malice test, where the plaintiff has to prove the defendant wanted to cause harm. And since every ridiculous E-Inquirer article about celebrities base their claims on an anonymous source, any malice would be one part of the anonymous source, and then legally speaking, it's incredibly hard to shoot the messenger via lawsuit. It really comes down to money and the Streisand effect. You've got to want to spend the money to take them to court and be prepared for all the publicity that will surround something almost nobody would have ever read anyway. This is the calculus that keeps the tabloids in business. So most celebrities, they don't even bother with it. I mean, I appreciate the Globe and the E-Inquirer because I knew they were fake. And they were just trying to sell newspapers. And now, in 2021, I enjoy the Onion because I know the Onion is fake. And they're just trying to, get some likes and get some laughs. But the bigger problem is that fake news today, in many instances, is attempting to deceive us. Now, sometimes it can just be sloppy reporting due to the pressure of the 24-hour news cycle. Whatever the case is, my advice to you is to watch out for fake news. Check Snopes. Go to Google before trusting something or sharing news that seems to be too good or too bad to be true. Look for really goofy URLs, including ones that end with, .co. And they're trying to look authentic or trying to look legitimate, but they're really not. Look for signs of low quality production, such as words set in all caps, or headlines with glaring grammatical errors, or bold claims with no sources, and sensational images. Obviously, like women in bikinis, they are popular clickbait, or headlines that say, "Wait till you see what this person was doing in the Bahamas." These are clues that you should be skeptical. Check a site's About Us section if they even have such a thing. Find out who's behind these sources. Consider whether other credible mainstream news outlets are reporting the same news. And if they're not, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not true, but it does mean that you should keep digging. Check multiple sources before trusting. And be mindful of your affirmation bubble. Check your emotions. Clickbait and fake news strive for extreme reactions. If the news you're reading makes you really angry or super smug, it could be a sign that you're getting played.